They made me pay rent at 15 while my brother got allowance. Now I own their mortgage. My mom's hands were shaking so badly the pen kept slipping, and every time it did, she pressed her lips together like she was trying not to cry in front of me. The kitchen light above us buzzed faintly, that annoying fluorescent hum I used to hear when I'd sit at this same table doing homework while my dad lectured me about responsibility. The papers were spread out in neat stacks because I couldn't stand the mess of it. Promissory note on top, mortgage agreement underneath, then the payment schedule my attorney printed in a clean font with no room for interpretation. Across from my mom, my dad sat rigid, jaw clenched, staring at the numbers like he could intimidate them into changing. My brother, Tyler, leaned against the counter with his arms crossed and that tight little half-smirk he gets when he's not the one being asked to sacrifice. My mom whispered, "Do we have to do it like this?" And my throat tightened because the smell of coffee and lemon dish soap suddenly pulled me 15 years backward. I slid the papers a fraction closer and said, quietly, "Yes. If I'm saving the house, it's going to be in writing." I could feel my heartbeat in my fingers as I held the edge of the table. My nails dug into the cheap wood veneer. Dad finally looked up at me, eyes sharp and offended. "You're really going to make your own parents sign a mortgage," he said, like the word itself was a betrayal. Tyler made a small noise, almost a laugh, and Dad shot him a look that shut him up. My mom's eyes were wet, and she kept glancing toward the hallway like she might run away from the conversation. I swallowed hard, tasting metal, and forced myself to keep my voice steady. "I'm not making you," I said. "You called me. You said you needed help. This is what help looks like." Dad pushed his chair back a few inches, the legs scraping the tile, and for a second I thought he'd stand up and walk away like he used to when he didn't want to face something. Instead, he leaned forward and said in a low voice, "After everything we did for you." That line hit like a reflexive slap, and I felt my chest tighten in the exact same place it used to when I was 15 and trying not to cry because crying proved I wasn't mature enough to have an opinion. I stared at him and said, "After everything I did for you too." It was a Tuesday night when my mom called, and I remember it because Tuesdays are my late days, gym after work, grocery run, laundry if I'm trying to pretend I'm a functional adult. I'd just gotten home, still in my blazer, hair pulled tight, and I was halfway through heating up leftover pasta when my phone lit up with a... I almost didn't answer. Not because I hate her, but because I've learned my family doesn't call to chat. They call when they want something or when they're angry that I've stopped giving things for free. When I answered, my mom's voice was thin and rushed, like she'd been crying and then tried to swallow it. "Hannah," she said, "we're in trouble." I stood at my counter staring at the steam rising from my food and felt my stomach drop before she even explained. Then she said it, the mortgage was behind. Notices. Late fees. "We can't catch up," she whispered. "They're going to take the house." I didn't even know what to say at first because the part of me that still loves them wanted to immediately say, "I'll fix it." That's the muscle they built in me early. The one that jumps when they need something. But another part of me, older, harder, tired, stayed still. "What happened?" I asked. My mom hesitated. Dad took the phone, and his voice came through like he was talking to a coworker, not his daughter. "It's been tight," he said. "Prices, bills. Your mom's hours got cut. It's not important. We just need a bridge." A bridge. Like I was a bank. I asked if Tyler could help. Dad snorted. "Tyler's got his own life," he said, dismissive. Like I didn't. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, hearing the old phrases echo. If you live under my roof, you contribute. Money doesn't grow on trees. Your brother's just a kid. And the memory that kept surfacing, uninvited, was me at 15, counting crumpled bills on this very same kitchen table while Tyler sat in the living room playing video games, and Mom would walk by and say, "Make sure it's the full amount, Hannah." They started charging me rent when I was 15 because I got a job at the local grocery store. I didn't even ask for the job to be rebellious. I wanted a phone. I wanted decent shampoo. I wanted to stop feeling guilty every time I needed something basic. When Dad found out how many hours I'd been scheduled, he nodded like I'd just signed a contract. "Good," he said. Then you can start helping around here. It wasn't helping, not really. It was rent.
He called it that.
He wrote it on a little notepad he kept in the kitchen drawer. Every Friday when I got paid, I had to hand him a set amount, cash, before I could put anything in my own account. If I asked why, he'd say, because this house costs money. You want to be grown? Be grown. Meanwhile, Tyler got an allowance for being good and getting decent grades. He was 2 years younger than me, and somehow that 2 years turned into a permanent exemption. If Tyler wanted new shoes, Mom took him. If I wanted new shoes, Dad said, "You have a job." I tried to argue once, just once. I said, "Why do I pay rent and Tyler gets allowance?" Dad stared at me like I'd insulted him. "Because Tyler's focused on school," he said. "Because Tyler doesn't talk back. Because Tyler isn't trying to act like he knows everything." The room went cold. Mom didn't defend me. She just looked down at the sink and scrubbed a plate that was already clean. So I paid. I worked nights. I did homework at 1 a.m. I skipped field trips because I couldn't afford it, even though my paycheck was paying their electric bill. I watched Tyler get his license paid for, his prom suit bought, his gas money slipped to him in the driveway. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself I'd leave and never need anyone again. And I did leave, at 18, with a duffel bag, a used laptop, and a savings account that looked decent only because I hadn't been allowed to spend my own money on anything fun. For years, I kept things polite. I visited on holidays. I brought gifts. I helped when emergencies happened, new water heater, blown tire. We're short this month. And every time I helped, I'd feel that old resentment flare, and then I'd smother it because guilt is a family heirloom in my house. The first time I really stopped was after a conversation with my therapist where she said, "You were a child paying to exist." Hearing it stated that plainly made me feel sick and relieved at the same time. So when my parents called about the mortgage, I didn't say yes right away. I asked for documents. I asked for the exact amount. I asked what their plan was. Dad got irritated. Mom cried. Tyler texted me a single line. "Please don't let them lose the house. Not I'll help. Not I'm sorry. Just a request, like my role was still obvious." I talked to an attorney and a financial advisor because I wasn't going to dump money into a black hole out of guilt. The cleanest option, my attorney said, was a secured loan. I pay the arrears and bring the mortgage current, and in return they sign a promissory note and a mortgage in my name, meaning if they stop paying me, I have legal recourse. I remember sitting on my couch listening to the attorney explain it and feeling my stomach twist. Not because it was wrong, but because it was so backwards. Children aren't supposed to become their parents' lender. When I told Mom and Dad my conditions, Dad exploded. "So you don't trust us," he said. I almost laughed. "You didn't trust me to live in your house for free when I was 15, I replied. He went quiet after that, the way he does when the truth hits too close to his ego. Mom tried a softer angle. "We just thought family helps family," she whispered. "I am helping," I said. "I'm just not doing it blind." They tried other options first. They asked Tyler's girlfriend's parents for a loan. They tried to refinance. They tried to borrow against a retirement account that didn't have enough. Every time something fell through, Mom's voice got more frantic. Finally, Dad showed up at my door, eyes bloodshot, pride leaking out of him. "We'll sign," he said, like he was doing me a favor. Which is how we ended up at that kitchen table with the buzzing light and the stack of papers and Mom's shaking hands. When she finally signed, the pen squeaked against the paper and she wiped her cheek with the back of her hand like she was embarrassed. Dad signed next, hard strokes, like he was angry at the ink. Tyler didn't sign anything because Tyler didn't have to. Tyler never has to. He just watched. And as soon as Dad finished, Tyler pushed off the counter and said, "So this is done then?" Like the whole thing was an annoying errand. I looked at him and felt something settle into place. "It's done when they make their first payment," I said. Dad glared. "We will," he snapped. "Then it'll be fine," I replied. Afterward, I went outside and stood on the porch for a minute, breathing cold air into my lungs until the tightness eased. The house looked the same as it always had. Same cracked driveway, same dented mailbox, same front window where I used to watch for Dad's truck and tense up if it was later than usual, because late meant he'd be mad. I realized, standing there, that I didn't feel triumphant. I felt tired and sad and strangely light because for the first time, the power dynamic had paperwork. Now I own their mortgage. Not because I wanted to win, but because I refuse to be the family donation jar again. They make payments to me every month. On time mostly. When they're late, Mom calls and her voice does that familiar wobble, and Dad tries to sound authoritative like he's not the one owing. Tyler still acts like this is all just Hannah being intense, and he still shows up on Sundays for dinner like nothing changed. Sometimes Dad tries to make jokes about it in front of relatives. Careful, Hannah will charge you for sitting down. And I smile politely while my stomach knots because the joke only works if everyone ignores why it exists. I still love my mom. I still see the ways she was also trapped in Dad's rules. But I'm done being the kid who pays for belonging. If they want to keep the house, they will do what I did at 15, budget, sacrifice, and pay on time. The difference is, I'm not doing it to punish them. I'm doing it to finally protect the version of me they taught to survive without protection. Thanks for watching. If you've ever been forced to grow up early because your family treated you like income instead of a kid, share your story in the comments. I'd genuinely love to hear it.